Hey there, travelers. Before we dive into today's story, drop a comment below telling us where you're tuning in from. Now let's begin our journey into the unknown. They found him naked in the woods, 200 yards from what was left of Jennifer Martinez. I keep replaying that sentence in my head as I sit across from Melvin Crowe in Interrogation Room B. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting everything in that sickly institutional white that makes everyone look guilty. But Melvin doesn't look guilty. He looks terrified. My name is Jack Faraday, FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit. 34 years old, divorced, no kids. Just a filing cabinet full of crime scene photos that haunt my sleep. For the last 5 years, I've chased a ghost. A monster. Something that kills when the moon is full and vanishes before dawn. They call him the Full Moon Butcher. 23 victims across the Pacific Northwest. Maybe more we haven't found yet. Each one discovered in the same condition. Chest cavity ripped open, ribs bent outward at impossible angles, heart missing. But it's the heads that made me stop eating for 3 days after viewing my first scene. Whatever kills these people doesn't just break skulls, it consumes them. Chews through bone and brain matter like a starving animal tearing into carrion. No tool marks, no weapon signatures, just trauma that our forensic analysts can't explain with anything in their databases. 5 years, 60 months of dead ends, false leads, and mounting pressure from brass who want answers I can't provide. My ex-wife Sarah left me 2 years into the investigation, said I loved the case more than I loved her. She wasn't wrong. How do you explain to someone that you can't turn off your brain when there's a predator out there selecting victims with methodical precision? How do you make them understand that every month you don't catch this thing, someone else dies screaming? The profile we built should have worked. White male, 30s to 40s, military or law enforcement background, physically imposing, lives alone, probably has a vehicle large enough to transport bodies. The kind of killing we were seeing required strength beyond normal human capability. Either someone using mechanical assistance or someone with serious physiological advantages. But we had nothing. No suspects, no witnesses. Just bodies that appeared like clockwork whenever the lunar cycle peaked, until yesterday morning. A jogger found Jennifer Martinez's remains just off Highway 101, near the Cioslaw National Forest boundary. Same MO as all the others. Heart gone, skull consumed, blood soaking into the pine needles. But this time, Forest Service rangers doing a sweep found Melvin Crowe 3 hours later, stumbling through the underbrush without a stitch of clothing, covered in blood that wasn't his. They brought him here to Cedar Falls PD, a town so small it doesn't warrant its own FBI field office. I drove 6 hours from Portland the moment I got the call. Didn't sleep, couldn't sleep. This was it, the break I'd been waiting for. The man sitting across from me now doesn't match our profile. Melvin Crowe is 41, according to his driver's license, though he looks older. Weathered skin, crow's feet around pale blue eyes that won't stop moving. Thin to the point of gaunt, arms covered in old scars and newer track marks from the IV the paramedics gave him. Not military, not law enforcement. Just a drifter who's been living rough for years. His hands shake on the metal table between us. Not the tremor of guilt or fear. Something else. Something that makes the small hairs on my neck stand up. Mr. Crowe, I begin, keeping my voice level, professional. The recorder on the table captures everything. You've been read your rights. You've waived your right to an attorney. Is that correct? Time, he says. His voice cracks like he hasn't used it in days. What time is it? I glance at my watch. 2:37 p.m. Why does that matter? Because the moon rises at 8:42 tonight. Melvin's eyes finally lock onto mine, and I see something in them that makes my throat tight. That gives you just over 6 hours, Agent Faraday. 6 hours to decide if you believe me. 6 hours to get everyone out of this building and as far away from me as possible. Behind me, Lieutenant Hope Foster shifts her weight. She's been standing by the door since we started, arms crossed, skeptical scowl fixed on her weathered face. Hope runs this precinct with an iron fist and has made it clear she thinks the FBI is wasting everyone's time with federal procedure when they've already got their man. You confessed to killing Jennifer Martinez the moment they found you, I continue, ignoring his statement about the moon. That's good. That shows you understand the severity of your situation. But I need details, Mr. Crow. I need to understand how this happened. And I need to know if you're responsible for the other victims. All of them. The words come out flat, empty. Every single one over the last 5 years. I did it, or rather, it did it through me. My pulse quickens. A full confession this fast should feel like victory, but something's wrong. The timeline doesn't work. Melvin Crow was only logged into the system 8 months ago. Vagrancy charge in Bend, Oregon. Before that, nothing. No record, no presence, like he didn't exist. It? I lean forward. You're saying someone else was involved? Not someone. Melvin's laugh is bitter, broken. Something, a parasite, an infection, whatever you want to call it. The thing living inside me that comes out when the moon is full. Hope snorts from her position by the door. Classic insanity defense. I've seen it a dozen times. But I hold up a hand, silencing her. Because I'm watching Melvin's face, and what I see there isn't calculation or manipulation. It's resignation. The look of a man who knows he's already dead and is just waiting for the formality to catch up. You're telling me you're a werewolf. I keep my voice neutral, giving him nothing to read. It's a technique I've perfected over years of interviews with people who've done unspeakable things. Never judge, never react, just collect information. I'm telling you I'm a host. Melvin pulls his hands back from the table, cradling them against his chest. The thing inside me, I call it the parasite because I don't know what else to call it. It takes control every full moon. Transforms me into something that shouldn't exist. Something hungry. I flip open my file folder, pulling out crime scene photos. Jennifer Martinez, or what remained of her. I arrange them carefully on the table between us. These are difficult to look at, Mr. Crow. But I need you to tell me. Did you do this? Melvin stares at the photos without flinching. Most people, even hardened criminals, react to this level of violence. They look away, swallow hard, show some flicker of humanity. Melvin just studies the images with clinical detachment. The parasite did that, he says quietly. While I watched from somewhere deep inside my own head, screaming and helpless, it ate her heart first. Always the heart. Then the brain. The rest it just destroys because it can. Because it's angry. Angry about what? Being trapped in me. Melvin's eyes glisten. Being separated from its family. Being forced to exist in this weak, pathetic human body instead of running free with others of its kind. Hope moves closer, her boots heavy on the linoleum. This is a waste of time. Agent Faraday. The man's clearly... Lieutenant, I don't look at her. Please give us the room. This is my house, Agent. I don't take orders. Then consider it a request. I finally turn to face her, letting her see the steel in my expression. I've been chasing this killer for 5 years. If there's even a chance he can provide information about the other victims, I need to hear it. Alone. Hope's jaw tightens, but she nods and steps out. The door closes with a heavy click, leaving Melvin and me in uncomfortable silence. She doesn't believe you, I say once we're alone. Neither do my colleagues. Neither does anyone who's going to review this recording. So I'm going to ask you directly, why should I believe a word you're saying? Melvin meets my gaze. Because in 6 hours, you're going to see exactly what I am. And by then, it will be too late to save anyone in this building. The parasite doesn't discriminate, Agent Faraday. It kills whoever's close when the transformation happens. Police officers, deputies, office workers, custodians, everyone becomes prey. A chill runs down my spine. There's something in his tone, a certainty that makes me want to believe he's delusional. That would be easier, safer. Let's say, hypothetically, that I'm entertaining this theory, I say carefully. Walk me through it. How did this happen to you? When did it start? Melvin sits back in his chair. For a long moment, he's silent, and I wonder if he's reconsidering the whole absurd confession. Then he speaks, and his voice carries the weight of someone who's been holding secrets for far too long. October 2019, 6 years ago. I was someone else then. Had a wife, Nicole. A daughter, Lily, 7 years old. gap-toothed smile that could light up a room. Worked as a mechanic in Spokane. Normal life. Good life. He pauses, swallowing hard. I liked to hunt. Deer mostly, sometimes elk. Knew the forests around Mount St. Helens better than my own neighborhood. That's where it happened. That's where my real life ended. I remain silent, letting him talk. It's what I'm good at. Creating space for confessions, letting people fill the void with truth. It was a full moon that night, Melvin continues. October 17th. I was tracking a buck, following it deeper into the forest than I'd ever been. Then I heard sounds. Not animal sounds. Something else. Something wrong. His hands begin to shake more violently now. I notice for the first time that his fingernails have a strange quality to them. Darker at the tips, almost black. I found them in a clearing, he whispers. 4 of them, feeding on an elk they'd brought down. And Agent Faraday, when I tell you what I saw, you have to understand that I'm not crazy. I know how insane this sounds, but I saw them. Saw what? Melvin closes his eyes. Werewolves, monsters, whatever name you want to put on them. Things that shouldn't exist, but do. They were massive, 7, 8 feet tall, covered in fur, but not like wolves. Their spines protruded from their backs, vertebrae pushing through the skin like some kind of grotesque armor. And through their rib cages, between the exposed muscle and bone, I could see human shapes. Faces pressed against the inside of the creature, trying to get out. My mouth goes dry. This is elaborate, detailed. Either Melvin Crow is genuinely delusional, or he's telling me something no one wants to hear. I panicked, he says. Fired my rifle. Hit the smallest one. A juvenile, I think. Killed it instantly. The other 3, he shudders. They went insane. One of them covered the distance between us in seconds, swiped at my leg and... He stops, breathing hard. And what? Tore it off, Melvin says flatly. Ripped my right leg clean off at the mid-thigh. I remember the pain, remember screaming, remember the blood. Then one of them dragged me. I don't know how far or for how long. Everything was darkness and agony and the smell of earth and decay. I lean forward, studying his face for signs of fabrication. But Melvin's pupils are dilated, his breathing shallow, classic signs of traumatic memory recall. When I woke up, I was in some kind of den or cave, pitch black. The creatures were there, mourning the one I'd killed. I could hear them, these awful keening sounds that weren't quite animal and weren't quite human. Then they came for me. What did they do? Melvin's voice drops to barely above a whisper. They performed a ritual, took the dead one's body and extracted something from it. A parasite. I don't know what else to call it. This writhing, living thing that glowed faintly in the darkness. And they forced it into my mouth. He convulses slightly, as if reliving the sensation. It burned going down, like swallowing acid in broken glass. I could feel it spreading through my body, burrowing into my organs, wrapping around my spine. The pain was worse than losing my leg, worse than anything I've ever experienced. And then what? My leg grew back. Melvin looks down at his right leg, still clothed in the sweatpants the hospital gave him. Bone, muscle, skin, everything regenerated in minutes. When I woke up the next day, I was lying in a ditch beside Highway 504, fully intact, like nothing had happened. Except everything had happened. Everything was different. I glance at the two-way mirror, knowing Hope and probably half the precinct are watching this interview. They're hearing the same thing I am. A detailed delusion from a man who's clearly suffering from some kind of psychotic break. But something nags at me. The crime scenes. The impossible damage. The precision of the kills. You left your family, I prompt. Why? Pain flashes across Melvin's face. Because I could feel it inside me. The parasite. Like a second consciousness, hungry and patient. I didn't know what it would do, but I knew I couldn't risk being near Nicole and Lily when I found out. So I took my truck, drove as far as the tank would carry me, and never went back. How long until the first transformation? 3 weeks. Full moon in November. I was in a motel outside Reno. Went to bed feeling sick, feverish. Woke up the next morning in an alley 6 blocks away, covered in blood. Later heard about a homeless man found torn apart nearby. Melvin's voice cracks. That's when I knew what I'd become. What the parasite turned me into every full moon. I've been running ever since, trying to stay away from people when the moon rises. But sometimes I don't make it far enough. Sometimes there are witnesses who become victims. I flip through my file again, pulling out more photos, names and faces of the dead. Tell me about Alice Pemberton. The change in Melvin is immediate. His eyes fill with tears. Alice, he breathes. She was different, special. I met her in Redding, California 2 years ago. Worked at a diner on the edge of town. I'd been moving around, taking day labor jobs, never staying anywhere longer than a week. But Alice, she saw me. Really saw me. You developed a relationship? For 3 weeks, I thought maybe I could have something normal again. Maybe the parasite would let me be happy. Alice knew I was damaged, knew I had secrets, but she didn't push. We talked about plans. Maybe moving somewhere quiet, starting over. Melvin wipes at his eyes. Then the full moon came. I tried to get away, drove 20 miles out into the desert. But the parasite was angry. It knew I was forming attachments, and it punished me for it. It killed Alice. Went back to town during the transformation, broke into her apartment, made it brutal, worse than the others. Like it wanted me to understand that I don't get to have happiness, that I'm just a vessel for its hunger and rage. The room feels colder. I realize I've been holding my breath. After Alice, I stopped trying, Melvin says. Just wandered. Let the parasite feed when the moon was full. Tried not to care about the names or faces. Tried to become as empty as the thing wearing my body. I check my watch again. 3:42 p.m. Less than 5 hours until moonrise. 5. Why confess now? I ask. Why not just let us think you're insane? Melvin looks at me with eyes that have seen too much. Because there's still a part of me that's human. A part that wants this to end. I'm telling you everything, so maybe, just maybe, you'll believe me enough to evacuate this building before nightfall. Take me somewhere isolated. Somewhere the parasite can't hurt anyone. Or you'll all die. Melvin's voice is steady now, certain. Every person in this precinct. The parasite will break out of this cell, and it will kill until there's nothing left to kill. And I'll watch it happen from inside my own head, screaming without a voice, exactly like I have for the last 5 years. I study his face, looking for deception. But all I see is exhaustion and desperate honesty. There's something else, Melvin says. Something you need to understand. The creatures that infected me, they're still out there. Still in those forests around Mount St. Helens. A family of them. And the parasite wants to go back. Wants to return to its own kind. That's why it's been so violent. It's angry, frustrated, trapped in a lone human body when it should be running with a pack. You want us to take you back there? I want you to kill me before the moon rises. Melvin's voice is pleading now. Please. I've thought about it 1,000 times. Putting a gun in my mouth, stepping in front of a truck. But I'm too much of a coward. The human part of me still clings to life even though it's not a life worth living. I sit back, processing everything. Every instinct I've developed over years of behavioral analysis tells me that Melvin Crow genuinely believes what he's saying. Whether it's truth or an elaborate delusion crafted by a fractured mind, that's the question keeping my hands from shaking. I need to consult with my colleagues, I say, standing. Don't go anywhere. Melvin laughs bitterly at the joke. Agent Faraday, when the transformation starts, it won't matter what cell you have me in. It won't matter how many locks or chains you use. The parasite is strong enough to tear through steel, fast enough that you won't see it coming, and hungry enough to consume everyone in this building. I pause at the door. If what you're saying is true, if there's even a possibility, why not take precautions? Why not move you somewhere secure? Because it's already too late, Melvin whispers. The moment you brought me here, you sealed everyone's fate. The parasite knows where it is now. It's been counting down the hours just like I have. And it's hungry, Agent Faraday. So very hungry. I step out of the interrogation room, and Hope is waiting for me in the observation area, arms still crossed. "Well?" she demands. "You get your confession?" "I got something," I say carefully. "I'm not sure what yet." Officer Andre Pine, a young cop who can't be more than 25, approaches with a tablet. "Agent Faraday, I pulled Crow's records like you asked. There's something weird." "Weird how?" Andre pulls up a file. "He's got a driver's license from Washington State, issued 6 years ago. But before that, nothing. No birth certificate we can find, no social security records before 2019. It's like he didn't exist until 6 years ago." My stomach tightens. "That's not possible." "I know, but that's what we've got. Also, I ran his prints through every database we have access to. They don't match anything. Not even the prints we took from him this morning match the ones in the system from his vagrancy arrest 8 months ago." I stare at the tablet screen, watching my carefully constructed understanding of reality start to crumble. "There's one more thing," Andre says hesitantly. "The blood on Crow when we found him. We got preliminary results back from the lab. It's not human blood. Lab tech said it most closely matches canine, but with anomalies she can't explain. She's running more tests." Hope scoffs. "Maybe he killed a dog." But I'm looking at the one-way mirror, watching Melvin Crow sit motionless in that chair. His hands are still shaking. And now that I'm looking closely at the video feed, I can see something else. His fingernails are definitely darker than they were when we started, almost black now at the tips. I check my watch one more time. 4:17 p.m. 4 hours and 25 minutes until moonrise. And I have no idea if I'm interrogating a serial killer, a mentally ill man, or something that shouldn't exist. But I'm about to find out. I return to the interrogation room with 2 cups of coffee and a decision I'll probably regret. Hope tried to stop me, insisting we transfer Crow to a psychiatric facility immediately. But something in those lab results, the impossible blood work, the vanishing fingerprints, the non-existent history, keeps pulling at me. 5 years chasing ghosts. Maybe I finally found one. Melvin hasn't moved. He sits in the same position, hands clasped on the table, staring at nothing. When I set the coffee in front of him, he doesn't reach for it. "You said you were a mechanic," I begin, settling back into my chair. "In Spokane, before everything changed." His eyes refocus slowly, like he's pulling himself back from somewhere distant. "Morrison's auto shop on East Sprague. Worked there for 8 years, specialized in transmissions. Good, honest work." "Tell me about Nicole and Lily." A smile ghosts across his face, bitter and painful. "Nicole taught 3rd grade at Longfellow Elementary. We met at a community barbecue, one of those neighborhood things where everyone brings potato salad and nobody knows whose kid is whose. Lily was born a year later. Perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, lungs that could wake the whole hospital." He finally reaches for the coffee but doesn't drink it, just wraps his hands around the cup for warmth. "She loved dinosaurs. Had this stuffed T-Rex named Chester that went everywhere with her. Every night I'd read her books about paleontology. Way too advanced for a 7-year-old. But she ate it up. Wanted to be a paleontologist when she grew up." The present tense shifts to past, and I watch something die in his eyes. "Hunting was your escape," I prompt. "My dad taught me. Grew up in the mountains of Idaho. Learned to track and shoot before I learned to ride a bike. When life got stressful, bills piling up, car breaking down, whatever, I'd head into the woods for a weekend." Nicole understood. Said everyone needs their space. Melvin takes a sip of coffee, grimaces at the bitter taste. October 2019. I'd planned a solo trip to the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, near Mount St. Helens. 3 days, just me and the wilderness. Nicole packed my lunch. Lily drew me a picture of a deer to bring good luck. I kissed them both goodbye and promised to bring back stories. His voice drops lower. I kept that promise. Just not the kind of stories anyone wants to hear. "Walk me through that night. Every detail you remember." Melvin closes his eyes, and I can see his jaw working as he forces himself back to that moment. First day was normal. Set up camp near Ape Canyon. Yeah, I know the name, all the Bigfoot legends. Saw a few does, tracked a decent buck but never got a clear shot. By evening, I had rabbit cooking over the fire, stars coming out overhead. Perfect night. Second day things got strange. I was following fresh tracks. Big deer, maybe 8-point buck from the hoof spacing. But the tracks led deeper into the forest than I'd ever been. Areas without trails, barely any light breaking through the canopy. Should have turned back, but I was committed. Stubborn. He opens his eyes, staring at something I can't see. Around noon, I noticed other tracks intersecting with the deer's. Massive paw prints, bigger than any wolf or bear I'd encountered. 6 inches across, claws that dug deep into the soil. The pattern was wrong, though. Too methodical, too purposeful. Whatever made them was hunting. A shiver runs through me despite the room's warmth. You followed them. Stupid, right? Every instinct screaming to get out, but curiosity won. I'm a mechanic from Spokane. What did I know about predators? Figured it was just a big wolf, maybe a pack working together. Melvin's hands tighten around the coffee cup. Found them just before sunset. I heard sounds first. Wet tearing, bones cracking, something that might have been communication but wasn't quite language. Crept through the underbrush until I could see the clearing. 4 of them. Agent Faraday, I need you to understand. I wasn't drunk, wasn't high, wasn't suffering from altitude sickness or dehydration. What I saw was real. I leaned forward, every sense focused on his words. They were feeding on an elk, but they weren't wolves or bears or anything in any nature documentary. They stood upright, 7 or 8 feet tall, covered in fur that looked matted and diseased. Their heads were elongated, wolf-like but wrong. Too much intelligence in those eyes, too much awareness, and their bodies. Melvin swallows hard. Their spines protruded through their backs, not just visible, but pushing through the skin and fur like external armor, vertebrae stacked and exposed, and creating this ridge from neck to tailbone that pulsed with each breath. Their rib cages were partially visible too, muscle and sinew stretched over bone in a way that shouldn't support life. But the worst part, through the gaps in their ribs, pressed against the inside of the creature like prisoners behind bars, I could see human faces. Men, women, maybe even children. Their mouths open in silent screams, hands pushing outward, trying to escape from inside the monster. My throat goes dry. The level of detail, the consistency of his delusion. It's unlike anything I've encountered in behavioral analysis. The smallest one was feeding away from the others, Melvin continues. Maybe 4 feet tall, juvenile. Still had that same horrific anatomy but less developed. When it moved, I saw its spine shift under the skin, bones grinding together with sounds that made my stomach turn. I raised my rifle without thinking. .30-06, powerful enough to drop an elk at 200 yards. Aimed for center mass, squeezed the trigger. The shot echoed through the forest, and the creature dropped instantly. Melvin's voice cracks. For maybe 2 seconds, there was silence. Then the other 3 turned toward me, and I saw their faces change. Grief, rage, emotions that animals shouldn't be capable of expressing. The largest one must have been 9 feet tall. Muscles like coiled steel under that rotting fur. It screamed. Not a howl, not a roar. A scream that sounded human and inhuman simultaneously. Then it charged. I realize I've stopped taking notes, completely absorbed in his narrative. 30 yards covered in maybe 3 seconds. I got one more shot off, hit it in the shoulder, but it didn't even slow down. Then it was on me. One swipe of its claws and... Melvin stops, breathing hard. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the room's chill. My leg. It took my right leg at mid-thigh. Didn't cut it or break it, just tore it off completely. I remember looking down, seeing the stump, arterial blood spraying in rhythm with my heartbeat. The pain came a second later. Worst thing I've ever felt, and I've been through the transformation dozens of times now. I fell backward, screaming, trying to crawl away. But the creature grabbed me by the ankle of my remaining leg and started dragging me, through the undergrowth, over rocks and roots, my stump leaving a blood trail that would have made tracking me easy for anyone who cared to follow. How far? I ask. No idea. Minutes or hours, pain makes time meaningless. Eventually, we reached some kind of cave or den. Pitch black, smelled like death and earth and something else. Something ancient. The creature threw me down, and I heard the others enter behind it. Melvin's hands are shaking violently now. I notice his fingernails have darkened further, almost completely black. They laid the dead juvenile in the center. I could hear them moving around it, making sounds that might have been mourning, keening wails that sounded almost like crying. Then they started, I don't know what to call it. A ritual? Describe it. One of them, the largest one that took my leg, it bent over the dead creature and placed its claws on the juvenile's chest. Started pressing, kneading, like it was trying to extract something. The dead thing's ribcage cracked open, and I heard wet, tearing sounds. Then I saw it. In the faint moonlight filtering through cracks in the cave ceiling, I watched them pull something out of the corpse. It was maybe 8 inches long, segmented like a centipede, but thicker. Pulsing with its own bioluminescence, a faint red glow that illuminated their faces. Melvin's voice drops to barely above a whisper. It was alive, still moving even though its host was dead. The creatures passed it between them reverently, almost worshipfully. Then they turned toward me. They held me down. I was already weak from blood loss, going into shock. Couldn't fight even if I'd had the strength. The largest one forced my jaw open. Its claws were surprisingly gentle, like it didn't want to damage me more than necessary. Then it placed the parasite at my lips. I clamped my mouth shut, but it didn't matter. The thing forced its way through, burrowing between my teeth like it had its own will. I felt it slide down my throat, felt it writhing in my esophagus. Then the pain started. He shudders, entire body convulsing with the memory. Worse than losing my leg, worse than anything biological should be capable of causing. It felt like the parasite was eating me from the inside, dissolving my organs to make room for itself. I could feel it spreading, tendrils reaching into my chest cavity, wrapping around my heart, my lungs, burrowing into my spine, interfacing with my nervous system. I screamed until my voice gave out, thrashed until the creatures had to pin me down completely. Hours maybe. Time stopped meaning anything. Just pain and violation and the sensation of something alien making my body its home. Then the regeneration started. I felt my leg growing back, bone extending from the stump, muscle wrapping around it, skin sealing over the wound. The process was agonizing in a completely different way. Every nerve ending firing at once, flesh knitting together in ways that shouldn't be possible. Melvin looks at me, eyes haunted. When it was done, I was whole again, physically intact. But I wasn't alone anymore. I could feel it inside me, the parasite. A presence in my mind that wasn't my thoughts. Hungry, patient, waiting. The creatures left me there, just walked away into the darkness. I lay in that cave until sunrise, too traumatized to move, too afraid of what I'd become. Eventually, I crawled out into daylight and found myself maybe 2 miles from Highway 504. Flagged down a logging truck, told the driver I'd gotten lost hiking. He dropped me at a gas station, and I used the payphone to call Nicole. What did you tell her? Lies. Said I'd had an accident, cut the trip short, needed some time to clear my head before coming home. She knew something was wrong, could hear it in my voice, but I couldn't tell her the truth. How do you explain to your wife that you're infected with something that will turn you into a monster? Melvin's voice hardens. I drove to a motel in Olympia. Paid cash for a week, locked myself in the room, and waited. The parasite was quiet at first, almost dormant, but I could feel it stirring every time I looked at the moon through the window, growing more active as the lunar cycle progressed. 3 weeks later, November full moon. I woke up around 9 p.m. feeling sick. Fever, nausea, joints aching. Thought maybe I'd picked up an infection from the cave. Took some ibuprofen and tried to sleep. I remember the moment it started. The parasite surged awake inside me, and suddenly I wasn't in control anymore. My body started changing, bones breaking and reforming, skin stretching, muscles tearing and rebuilding. It wasn't gradual or cinematic like in the movies. It was violent and fast and wrong. The human part of me got pushed down, locked in some deep corner of my consciousness where I could see and hear but not control anything. Like being trapped in a car with a drunk driver, screaming for them to stop but having no ability to grab the wheel. Melvin's eyes are distant now, reliving horrors I can barely imagine. The parasite took over completely, broke through the motel window, didn't even bother with the door. I watched through eyes that weren't mine as it ran through Olympia's streets, faster than any human could move, stronger than anything natural. It found a homeless man in an alley behind a Chinese restaurant. I don't want to describe what it did to him, what I did to him, because it was my hands, my teeth. The parasite fed on his heart and brain, just like it would feed on 22 more people over the next 5 years. When I woke up the next morning, I was naked in a different alley 6 blocks away, covered in blood that was already drying. I found my way back to the motel, cleaned up, and ran. Left my truck, left my belongings, left everything tied to Melvin Crow, the mechanic from Spokane. I checked the time, 5:43 p.m. Less than 3 hours until moonrise. You never went back to Nicole and Lily. Couldn't risk it. The parasite was learning my patterns, my attachments. Every month when the moon rose, it would hunt. And I realized, if I was near my family when it happened, they'd be the first victims. So I became a ghost. Let Melvin Crow die and started drifting. Cash jobs, sleeping rough, moving every few days. Stayed away from population centers when I could time it right. But the parasite got smarter, more aggressive. Started forcing transformations to happen in places where there would be prey. Towns, suburbs, anywhere people gathered. Melvin's voice cracks with emotion. I tried to warn them sometimes. Leave anonymous tips about a dangerous animal. Call in fake threats to get areas evacuated. Nothing worked. The parasite always found someone. Tell me about Alice Pemberton, I say gently. The name hits him like a physical blow. He bows his head, shoulders shaking. There's Redding, California, May 2022. I'd been on the road for almost 3 years by then. Broken, hollow, barely human. Stopped at a diner called Rosie's on the edge of town. Just needed coffee and a meal before moving on. Alice was my server. 28 years old, strawberry blonde hair she kept in a ponytail. Green eyes that actually saw me. Not the homeless drifter. Not the damaged veteran people assumed I was. She saw the person underneath. We talked. Just small talk at first. Weather, local news, nothing important. But she had this way of listening that made you want to keep talking. Next day I came back. Then the day after that. Within a week, I'd rented a room above the hardware store and picked up work at a construction site. Melvin wipes at his eyes. For the first time since the infection, I felt almost normal. Alice and I started dating, if you can call it that. Coffee before her shifts, walks through Turtle Bay Park, movies at the old theater on Market Street. She knew I had demons, knew I was running from something, never pushed for details. 3 weeks, that's all I got. 3 weeks of thinking maybe I could have a life again. Maybe the parasite would let me be happy. But it didn't. The full moon came on May 26th. I drove 50 miles into the desert, found the most isolated spot I could, handcuffed myself to a concrete drainage culvert. Thought maybe I could contain it, control it somehow. His voice goes flat, emotionless. The parasite broke the handcuffs like they were plastic. Then it ran. 50 miles back to Redding, straight to Alice's apartment. It knew. Somehow it knew what she meant to me, and it punished me for daring to form an attachment. Alice lived in a ground floor unit on Pine Street. The parasite broke through her bedroom window around 2 a.m. She woke up, tried to run. Didn't matter. It was playing with her. Agent Faraday. Taking its time. Making it last. I see tears streaming down Melvin's face now. I watched from inside my own head as it did things I won't describe. When it finally killed her, it was almost a mercy. Then it consumed her heart and brain, left her body displayed in a way that made its message clear. You don't get to love. You don't get to be human. You're mine. The police ruled it an animal attack. Mountain lion, they said, though no mountain lion had ever broken into a ground floor apartment in recorded history. I left Redding that night, never looked back. After Alice, something in me broke completely, and stopped trying to warn people, Stopped trying to contain the transformations. Stopped caring about the names and faces. Just drifted from town to town, counting down the days between full moons, waiting for death that never came. Melvin meets my eyes, and I see someone who died years ago still walking around in a corpse. The parasite kept feeding. Vancouver, Spokane. Yeah, I went back to Washington but stayed far from my old neighborhood. Portland, Eugene, Coos Bay. 23 victims over 5 years. Each one a person with their own Alice, their own Lily, their own life cut short because I was too weak to end my own. Why didn't you? I ask. End it, I mean. You've had 5 years. Cowardice. The human part of me still clings to life even though it's worthless. I've stood on bridges, held guns to my head, walked into traffic. Every time I freeze. Some pathetic survival instinct won't let me pull the trigger. He leans forward urgently. But you can. That's why I'm telling you everything. When the transformation starts, shoot me. Don't hesitate. Don't try to contain it. Just put bullets in my brain until I stop moving. It's the only way to kill the parasite. How do you know? Because I've researched it. Spent years in libraries when I could, reading folklore and mythology. Every culture has stories about werewolves, shapeshifters, monsters wearing human skin. And they all agree on one thing. Destroy the brain, kill the connection between parasite and host. I glance at my watch. 6:27 p.m. Just over 2 hours until moonrise. My hands are trembling slightly as I write notes. The creatures that infected you, I say. You think the parasite wants to return to them? I know it does. Every transformation, I feel its longing. It's angry at being separated from its pack, furious at being trapped in a solitary host. That's why the kills are so brutal. It's lashing out, taking its rage out on whatever prey it finds. If I could get back to Mount St. Helens, back to that clearing where I killed the juvenile, maybe the other creatures would take the parasite back. Maybe they'd let me die. It's the only hope I have left. I sit back, processing everything. The rational part of my brain insists this is elaborate delusion. Trauma-induced psychosis manifesting as a monster narrative to absolve him of guilt. But the evidence keeps mounting. The impossible blood work, the darkening fingernails, the precise details about crime scenes he shouldn't know. Agent Faraday, Melvin says urgently. I need you to decide. Believe me or don't believe me. But make the call. Evacuate this building and lock me somewhere isolated. Or put a bullet in my head right now. But don't sit there analyzing me like I'm just another case study. In 2 hours, everyone in this precinct will be dead if you don't act. A knock at the door interrupts us. Hope Foster enters without waiting for permission, her face flushed with barely controlled anger. Agent Faraday, we need to talk, now. I stand reluctantly, glancing back at Melvin. His fingernails are completely black now, and I notice his teeth look slightly elongated. Or maybe it's just the lighting. Don't leave this building, Melvin calls after me. When it starts, you need to be ready. You need to... Hope pulls the door shut, cutting off his words. In the hallway, she rounds on me. What the hell are you doing in there? We've got a confession. We've got evidence. We've got everything we need to close this case. Why are you entertaining his insane delusions? Because something doesn't add up, I reply. The lab results are inconclusive at best. Could be contamination, equipment error, a dozen things. You're wasting time on supernatural nonsense when we should be processing this guy and moving on to the next case. I check my watch again. 6:41 p.m. 2 hours exactly until the moon rises. Hope, humor me. Let's move Crow to a holding cell at the county facility. Get him out of this building, somewhere more secure. On what grounds? Because he told you a scary story about werewolves? On the grounds that I'm asking. Please. Hope's expression softens slightly. Jack, you've been chasing this case for 5 years. I get that you want closure. But accepting a confession from a mentally ill drifter isn't defeat. It's just the reality of the job. Not every case ends with a brilliant profile leading to a master criminal. Sometimes the monster is just a broken person. She's right, and I know it. Every psychological principle I've learned, every behavioral analysis technique, every year of training tells me that Melvin Crow is delusional, and I'm getting pulled into his fantasy. but I can't shake the feeling that something terrible is about to happen. Officer Andre Pine appears at the end of the hallway, moving quickly. "Agent Faraday, we've got a problem. The temperature in Crow's cell has dropped 20 degrees in the last 10 minutes. Thermostat says the HVAC is functioning normally, but there's frost forming on the walls inside the interrogation room." Hope and I exchange glances. Through the observation window, I can see Melvin sitting perfectly still, breath now visibly misting in the air. "Get environmental services down here," Hope orders. "Probably a coolant leak or—" Melvin's head snaps up suddenly, eyes wide and terrified. He's staring at the window, looking directly at where I'm standing despite the one-way glass. His mouth moves, forming words I can't hear through the soundproofing, but I can read his lips clearly. It's starting. The lights flicker, and somewhere deep in my gut, beneath all my training and rationality and professional skepticism, I know with absolute certainty that Melvin Crow was telling the truth. We have 2 hours until moonrise. We're already out of time. The temperature drop spreads through the entire precinct like an infection. Within 5 minutes, every room registers 15 degrees below normal. Environmental Services finds nothing wrong with the HVAC system. The thermostats function perfectly. The cooling units aren't even running. Yet frost creeps across windows, and our breath mists in the air. Hope refuses to evacuate. "It's a mechanical malfunction, not a reason to abandon protocol," she insists. But I hear the uncertainty in her voice. She feels it too. Something fundamentally wrong spreading through the building. I return to the observation room, watching Melvin through the one-way glass. He hasn't moved from his position at the table, but his body language has changed. The trembling has stopped. He sits unnaturally still, head slightly cocked, like he's listening to something I can't hear. Officer Andre Pine joins me, carrying a tablet. "Agent Faraday, I pulled footage from the convenience store near where we found Crow. Wanted to see if he'd been in the area before the incident." He cues up the security footage. Black and white, grainy, timestamp reading 11:47 p.m. Roughly 4 hours before we found Melvin near Jennifer Martinez's body. The footage shows a figure approaching from the tree line behind the store. Even in the poor quality video, I can see it's not walking normally. The gait is wrong, too fluid, too predatory. It pauses at the edge of the parking lot, illuminated briefly by the security lights. My blood turns cold. It's Melvin, but not Melvin. Same basic body structure, but taller somehow. His posture is hunched, arms hanging too long. When he turns his head toward the camera, his face catches the light for just a moment. His eyes reflect like an animal's, bright amber, glowing in the darkness. "Jesus Christ," Andre whispers. "What is that?" The figure on screen moves out of frame with unnatural speed. The timestamp continues. 11:48 p.m., 11:49 p.m. Then at 11:52 p.m., something massive crosses through the far edge of the frame. Too fast to see clearly, but large enough to make the camera shake. "There's more," Andre says, his voice shaking. He fast-forwards to 4:23 a.m., just before dawn. The same figure returns, but moving differently now. Slower, unsteady, human-shaped again, though still wrong in ways I can't articulate. It disappears back into the tree line, heading in the direction where we'd eventually find Jennifer Martinez's remains. I check my watch, 7:14 p.m. 1 hour and 28 minutes until moonrise. "Andre, I need you to do something for me," I say quietly. "Don't argue, don't ask questions. Go to the armory and get every weapon we have. Shotguns, rifles, anything with stopping power. Distribute them to every officer in this building." "Sir, that's against—" "I don't care about protocol. Do it now." He hesitates, then nods and hurries off. Hope appears in the doorway, arms crossed. "Jack, what's going on? You're scaring my officers." "Hope, we need to move Crow out of this building. Right now. I don't care where. The county facility, a field office. Hell, drive him to Portland. Just get him away from populated areas." "On what authority? You can't just—" A sound interrupts her. Low, guttural, coming from the interrogation room. Not quite human, not quite animal. The hair on my arm stands up. Through the one-way glass, I watch Melvin's head tilt back. His mouth opens wider than it should, jaw distending. The sound continues, building in volume, a growl that resonates in my chest. "Hope," I say carefully, never taking my eyes off Melvin. "Get everyone to the parking lot. Now." I'm not evacuating my precinct because a suspect is having a breakdown. Melvin's hands slam down on the metal table. The impact echoes like a gunshot. Then he does it again, and again. Each strike dents the solid steel surface. Hope's face goes pale. That's not possible. "Evacuate, now." She finally moves, barking orders into her radio. Alarms begin blaring throughout the building. Officers scramble, confused but responding to the urgency in their lieutenant's voice. I should leave too. Every survival instinct screams at me to run, but I'm transfixed, watching the impossible unfold before my eyes. Melvin stands slowly. His movements are jerky, uncoordinated, like a puppet with tangled strings. He turns toward the mirror, and even though he shouldn't be able to see me, his eyes lock directly onto mine. They're not human anymore. Amber and gold, pupils dilating and contracting rapidly. His lips pull back, revealing teeth that are definitely longer than they were an hour ago. The lights flicker again. Emergency lighting kicks in, bathing everything in red. "Agent Faraday!" Andre appears with 2 shotguns and a rifle. "Building's evacuating, but Hope says you need to get out. We're locking down." Melvin's body convulses. His spine arches backward at an angle that should snap vertebrae. The sound of bones breaking fills the room. Sharp cracks like green wood snapping. "Oh God," Andre breathes. "Oh God, it's real. It's actually real." Melvin drops to his knees. His clothes strain and tear as his body expands. Muscles bulge and ripple under skin that's darkening, thickening. His fingers elongate, nails becoming claws that scrape against the concrete floor. The transformation isn't gradual or cinematic. It's violent and grotesque. His face elongates, skull reshaping with sounds like grinding glass. Fur erupts through skin in patches, matted and diseased looking. His spine pushes outward, vertebrae piercing through his back one by one, creating that horrific ridge Melvin described. He screams. It starts human and deteriorates into something primal, agonized. The sound of a man dying while something else is born from his flesh. "We need to go," I say, but I can't move. Can't look away from the nightmare taking shape in that room. The creature that was Melvin Crow stands on legs that bend backward like a wolf's. It's massive, 8 feet tall, maybe more. The exposed spine along its back pulses with each breath, and through its partially visible ribcage, I see it. A human face. Melvin's face. Pressed against the inside of the creature, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes filled with terror and pleading. The monster's head swivels toward us. Intelligence burns in those amber eyes. Not human intelligence, but something older, hungrier. It charges the one-way mirror. "Move!" I shove Andre backward as the glass explodes inward. The creature flows through the opening with impossible grace, landing in a crouch in the observation room. This close, I can smell it. Decay and musk and something else. Something that makes my hindbrain scream predator. Andre raises his shotgun. The blast is deafening in the enclosed space. The creature staggers as buckshot tears into its shoulder, but it doesn't fall. Doesn't even seem particularly bothered. Black blood oozes from the wound, steaming in the cold air. It looks at Andre with something that might be curiosity, then it moves. I don't see it happen. One moment the creature is 10 feet away, the next Andre is screaming. The monster has him by the torso, claws sunk deep into his ribs. With a casual flex of its arms, it tears him in half. Blood sprays across my face, hot and copper-tasting. Andre's top half hits the wall with a wet smack. His legs collapse where they stand. I'm running before conscious thought catches up. Down the hallway, toward the main entrance. Behind me, the creature makes that sound again. Half growl, half something that might be laughter. The precinct is chaos. Officers firing blindly at shadows. Radios squawking contradictory orders. Civilians who'd been waiting in the lobby scrambling for exits. I see Hope near the dispatch desk, trying to coordinate an evacuation while maintaining some semblance of order. The creature crashes through the ceiling behind her. It doesn't drop so much as flow downward, moving like liquid muscle and bone. Hope turns, raises her service weapon, manages to get off 3 shots before the creature's claws sweep across her throat. Her head tumbles from her shoulders. Her body takes 2 more steps before collapsing. The monster stands over her corpse, and I finally understand what Melvin meant. This thing isn't just hunting. It's enjoying itself, taking its time, making a statement. "Federal agent!" I shout, raising my Glock. "Everyone out! Get out now!" The creature's attention snaps to me. Recognition flickers in those inhuman eyes. It remembers me. The human part of Melvin trapped inside remembers our conversation. It charges, I fire. 5 shots center mass, 2 more at the head. Every round hits. The creature doesn't stop. Then it's on me. The impact drives me backward through the dispatch desk. Wood and plastic explode around us. I feel ribs crack, breath driven from my lungs. The creature pins me down, one massive clawed hand on my chest. This close, I can see Melvin's face inside the monster. His mouth moving, trying to form words. Trying to warn me or apologize or beg for death. I'll never know which. The creature raises its other hand, claws extended. I have a moment to understand that I'm about to die. That 5 years of hunting this monster ends with me as just another victim in the case file. The claws come down. Pain explodes through my torso. I look down and see its hand buried in my abdomen. Feel organs tearing, blood flooding into cavities where it shouldn't be. The creature pulls, and I watch in detached horror as it rips through my pelvis, tearing my lower body nearly free from my upper half. I should be dead, should be unconscious from shock and blood loss. But I'm not. I'm aware of every sensation. The cold concrete under my back, the wet sounds of my own blood pooling around me, the creature's hot breath on my face as it leans closer. Around us, the massacre continues. Officers fall one by one. Some try to fight, some try to run. It doesn't matter. The creature is everywhere at once, moving with supernatural speed and strength. Bodies pile up, blood paints the walls. The screaming eventually stops. Silence settles over the precinct, broken only by the creature's heavy breathing and the drip of blood from its claws. It returns to me. I'm still alive somehow, though I shouldn't be. My vision is darkening at the edges, but I can still see, can still think with crystal clarity. The creature crouches beside me. Melvin's face inside it is crying, tears streaming down cheeks that aren't really there. The monster reaches toward my ruined torso, preparing to feed. My Glock is still in my hand. I don't remember holding on to it, don't know how I have the strength to lift it. But I do. I press the barrel against the exposed spine along the creature's back and squeeze the trigger. Once, twice, 3 times. The creature rears back, screaming. Not the predatory sound from before. This is agony. Pure, primal suffering. It statches backward, clawing at its own spine where my bullets have shattered vertebrae. The transformation reverses. Not gradually, but in rapid, violent convulsions. The monster shrinks, fur receding, bones reshaping. Within seconds, Melvin Crow kneels where the creature stood, naked and covered in blood that isn't his. He looks at me with human eyes full of gratitude and grief. "Thank you," he mouths. Then he collapses sideways, crashes through the window facing the parking lot, falls 2 stories to the pavement below and doesn't move. I try to call out to see if he's alive or dead. But darkness is closing in fast now. The pain fades to numbness, and numbness fades to nothing. I open my eyes to dim light filtering through gaps in old wood. My body feels wrong, stiff and cold, stiff, but whole. I'm lying on something hard and uncomfortable. I sit up slowly, every muscle protesting. I'm on a narrow cot in what looks like the cabin of a boat. An old one, judging by the peeling paint and rusty fixtures. Through a grimy porthole, I see gray water and rocky coastline. This isn't Oregon, isn't... I look down at myself. My clothes are shredded and stiff with dried blood. Someone else's blood, from the crime scene, from the massacre. But underneath, my skin is unmarked. No wounds, no scars. I should be dead. The creature tore me nearly in half. I felt my organs rupture, felt my spine separate. No human survives that. But I'm here, whole, breathing. I stand on shaky legs and explore the small cabin. There's nothing here. No supplies, no personal effects, no clues about how I got here or who brought me. Just an abandoned boat that smells like it's been rotting for years. Outside, I find myself in a small marina. Maybe 20 boats total, most in various states of decay. A weathered sign reads, Bar Harbor Marina. Beyond the docks, I see a small coastal town. Classic New England architecture, rocky beaches, pine forests in the distance. Bar Harbor, Maine. I'm on the opposite side of the country from where I should be. 3,000 miles from Cedar Falls, Oregon. How? Melvin's words echo in my memory. My leg grew back. Bone, muscle, skin. Everything regenerated in minutes. No. I stand abruptly, backing away from the thought taking shape in my mind. It's not possible. I wasn't bitten. The creature didn't infect me. I'm not... I force myself to look at my hands. My fingernails are slightly darker at the tips. Just a shade off from normal. Easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. Just like Melvin's were when we started the interrogation. No, I whisper. No, no, no. I sit on the cot, Glock in my hand, and stare at nothing. The choice should be simple. I know what happens to people like me. I've seen the crime scenes, interviewed the families of victims, watched the creature tear through my colleagues like they were tissue paper. I should pull the trigger. But I need to know if there's a way to stop it that doesn't end with my brains on the wall of this abandoned boat. 24 days. The moon will tell me everything. God help me.